Hello there, my zealots. This is Joshua coming in today with some really bad hair. Hold on, let me take this tail out. It's all messy. So, I made this video, and it was about women needing to marry in order to gain salvation. And one of my longtime subscribers had some problems with this, and so she left a comment. And so I'm going to call this episode Stephanie Asks. Okay, because Stephanie has the comment and she brought it up, and not only did I answer her in the comments, but I'm also going to answer her in a video because I think a lot of the questions she had in the comments were very valid and needed to be addressed. Okay, so the concept in this video is that women must marry, and that's the concept. So here's her issues. So it says. Few random thoughts slash questions. What about women who are seeking a husband, but he dies before she finds, but she dies before she finds one? Or a young woman whose father rejects all of her suitors? Should she defy her father to marry? As far as women being prepared to accept nothing from their husbands in exchange for being married does not fly in the face of husbands love your wives. I'm not saying that women don't contribute to a household in many ways, but it seems that the righteous husband would be striving day and night to provide for the wives he takes on. I'm struggling with this. How can a woman's salvation hinge on things that in traditional society are beyond her control? These are awesome questions, and I'm going to go down them one by one and answer every single one for you, okay? So, first question is, what about a woman who's seeking a husband, but she dies before she finds one? Well, that's the thing. God looks upon the heart. And if a woman is seeking to find a husband and was willing to sacrifice food, shelter, and monogamy to be with one, God's not going to judge. God's like, that woman was definitely looking for a husband. She was wanting to find one. She was willing to sacrifice those things. And of course, I'm going to give her everlasting life. That's just the way it works. That's how a repentant heart works. But don't let women have the excuse of saying, well, I have that repentance. I was willing to do it, but it never happened. I'm like, well, you had there was many righteous men you could have chosen to marry as an independent wife, and you refused. So therefore, God knows their heart and knows if they were being humble or if they were actually, using that as an excuse. I can't read women's hearts. I mean, I don't know what a woman's heart is at, if she was actually looking or not, but that's up to God to judge, not for me. But the issue is that if she is willing and able to sacrifice those things, it doesn't matter if she actually did them or not, as long as she was willing to do so. Let's see here. As far as a woman is prepared to accept nothing from her husband in exchange for being married, does not fly in the face of husbands love your wives. Husbands love your wives. So a husband is do four things. If he proposes to a woman, he has to do four things. He has to love the woman as he loves himself. He has to provide food, shelter, and duty of marriage. However, if the woman proposes to the man, and she has to go, I will sacrifice food and shelter, and let us be called by thy name to be take away our reproach. She sacrificed food and shelter. He still has to love the wife as he loves himself, and he still has to provide duty of marriage. So those are still things he has to do. So yeah, he has to love the wife as he loves her. It doesn't matter if she's independent or dependent. He has to love both wives equally, just as if he had multiple wives. However, a man, if he is single, he does not have to marry in any respect. Women that have to. If a man is single, he never has to marry. But a woman that needs to get married, she has to marry a man that is already married. A woman cannot force a single man to marry her. If you're a woman and you need a husband, you cannot force a single man to marry you. If that makes sense. Anyway. You can only force married men to marry you, and you can only force them to marry you as an independent wife. Oops, I killed the thing. All right. Okay, I'm not saying that women does not contribute to a household in many ways, but it seems to me that the righteous husband should be striving day and night to provide for the wives he takes on. And you are correct. If the wives are dependent wives, then the husband should be striving day and night to take care of those wives. And it says, I'm struggling with this. How can a woman's salvation hinge on things that in traditional society are beyond her control? And this is the thing. If a woman is... So, in the Bible, it talks about like if a woman, it's like, what happens oh, I think I skipped that. There was a thing in here where you talk about okay, and if her father, here it goes, or a young woman whose father rejects all of her suitors, should she find her father to marry? And there is this verse in Judges where the the father says, I will sacrifice my daughter to God. And this woman comes out and she's like, I'll sacrifice the first thing I see to God. And it was his daughter. And he's like, no. And so he gave her up and she never got married. That is the only instance in the Bible of a woman who never got married. And it's because her father forbade her to marry righteous suitors. So that is one instance. However, in Judges, Jesus Christ never actually quotes Judges. It's a part of a collection of books that Jesus Christ did quote from, so therefore it is biblical canon. However, Jesus Christ never quoted from Judges itself. So we do know that there might be some issues with Judges. However, in what is it? Oh, in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, those guys were given a direct order to bow down before the idol, and they refused to do it. Well, why did they refuse to do it? Well, because if those people in authority over you give you an order that is unrighteous, you can ignore it. And it's not unrighteous to do so. It is actually biblical to do so. So if your father tells you you cannot marry, it's righteous for you to marry, even though in full rebellion of your father, because he's telling you to do something that is unrighteous or ungodly. But there's evidences for both, so I leave it in the hands of the people that have to deal with it. But there is evidences for both. Yeah. Yeah. So how is it that a woman's salvation is hinged upon this concept? Well, women have control over who they marry, in for the most part. And I think in a modern day society, women are unwilling to be in polygamy, and so that is a huge limiting factor for the type of righteous men that they can get. And they use monogamy as an excuse for why they can't find a righteous husband. And what this is saying is basically you need to sacrifice monogamy so that you can get a righteous husband. And I think that's the major takeaway here, is that most women in today's society would rather be single than enter into polygamy. And what this verse is saying is that is an unrighteous mentality to have. You should be seeking, it's better, like if you find a man that is married and you're like, oh, I want to be a part of that family, then try and get him to marry you so that you can be a dependent wife. Because that's where your heart should be at. You're willing to sacrifice monogamy, or you're willing to sacrifice food and shelter. Being married is more important than monogamy. Okay? Being married is more important than having your needs taken care of, because God will provide your food and your shelter. He will provide those things for you. God can do anything. He can provide those things for you. Yes, a man is supposed to be providing those things for you, but if you walk out by faith, God will provide those things for you. You don't even have to worry about it. You just have to walk out by faith. And so sacrifice, food, shelter, and monogamy, these are the things that a woman they're holding fast to. And God's saying you need to let go of those things and just get yourself a husband and have that be in the forefront of your mind and have that be an important factor in your life. It's difficult. And I dedicated my life to talking about biblical subjects that are hard for people to hear. That's the whole purpose of my ministry, is like, I'm going to talk about the things, seek and to do and teach the least of the commandments. This is one verse in the entirety of the Bible, and there's no other verses like it. But this book is quoted by Jesus Christ. And if the book is quoted by Jesus Christ, then we got to listen to it. We have to say, okay, that what is in here is righteous and valid, and we should be applying it to ourselves. And so many people nowadays are saying, well, these verses don't apply, and I can pick and choose what I want. And I don't see that as being a righteous option. I just don't. And I know how it's difficult, and I know it flies in the face of convention, and I know it's a hard standard to maintain. But the only exceptions to the rule are Anna in the New Testament. She was married 7 years, and had children and was dedicated to her husband, and then she became a widow. And then after 7 years, she dedicated her life to Christ, or dedicated her life to God. And so in a like manner, if a woman has been either married or abandoned by her spouse, righteously abandoned, by the way. Like, he ditched her because he just didn't want her anymore and had no righteous recourse to do so, but did so anyway. She was married 7 years. She is set free from the bondage of law. She doesn't need to remarry. That's just the concept, okay? If you're widowed or married, you don't need to remarry after 7 years of being dedicated to one husband. Anyway, I hope this blesses you, and I hope this answers your question, Stephanie Cain. It's been a pleasure. I love you, and you've always been such a prominent part of this whole thing. And when I was here and focused, and when I was distracted because of like hard times in my life, you have always been a stabling force, and have always been in the background, cheering me on. And I really appreciate you, Stephanie. And I'm sorry I have to be the bearer of bad news, or just difficult news. I guess it's not bad news. It's all good news. It's just difficult news. But anyway, I hope this blessed you. And if you have any more questions, or anybody out there, if any of you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will try to respond either via comment. But if I think it's a large enough issue, I can turn it into a whole video. So anyway, you have a great day. God bless. Bye.